It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and today I am back with my brand new series, Balance, with our special guest co-host, Erikka J. Hey, Erikka.
Hey, Ann. Hey, bosses.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Thankfully, I am good today. Not that I was really bad any other day, but I've had a few doctor's appointments recently, and it got me to thinking because I still visit my oncologist every few months, and I had some troubling blood results, which are fine, everybody. It's fine, and I'm very thankful about that. But it made me think about what if, God forbid, something should happen to me and I was unable to work at my full-time voiceover career for a certain amount of time? Or what if I was out for a couple of months if I had to have surgery or whatnot? And I thought it would be a really good discussion to have. It may not be the most happy, pleasant discussion to have, but I think it's an important one to have for bosses that run their own business.
Absolutely. I'm a big proponent of balance in looking at, it's easy to think about the present and all the things that you have to do to presently run your business. But to take a balanced approach is to also think about planning for the future. So things happen that we don't like, either we get sick or no one wants to say it, but one day we're going to die, all of us. We have that in common. And hopefully one thing happy to talk about is one day we'll all retire and just be able to do the things that we love, even though we love this work. But, maybe just being able to go to the beach and make that be your job, so planning for retirement.
Yeah, such great points. And, I've made it fairly clear to many people that know me that I am planning for retirement. And I don't want to have to be burdened with, oh my gosh, where's my money coming from? I want to be able to enjoy my retirement. So let's talk about the things that maybe when you are a creative entrepreneur, we don't necessarily invest in that help us to plan for the future. I mean, number one, health insurance, of course.
Of course.
And I'll tell you my story is, well, my husband works. And so I'm taking advantage of that. And I take advantage of his healthcare plan, which thankfully has been a good one. And we make sure that we get the best that we can get, just simply because I've had health challenges in the past. And it really is a lifesaver when it comes to money in terms of whatever we have to pay out when I go to see the doctor. It's kind of crazy. So I think health insurance is super important. And I know if you are union and you are in a certain level of earnings, you can take advantage of the health care that they offer.
Yeah, actually, everybody knows that currently I still have a full-time job, so I'm somewhat in the same position as you, Ann, is that I still have corporate insurance. But I am about, I think, like $50 away from qualifying for SAG insurance. It's
there you
crazy.
go.
It's like $49 and change. It's pretty funny, actually. But that's definitely something I'm looking at, even as if it's a possibility to have a secondary.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that you would replace your current corporate health insurance.
No, not for now. I mean, obviously, the whole corporate job, that's where I'm at today. Will I still be doing that 10 years from now, doing both? I doubt it. So kind of just having that plan for the future and making sure that me and my family have health insurance.
And it's not a guarantee anymore that when you go to work for a company that you're going to get health insurance these days. And there has been a pandemic. And I think that there's probably no more important time to maybe think about health insurance is when there's a pandemic happening and you want to make sure that you keep yourselves healthy and can pay for any care that you might need. And especially now, let's say you get long-term COVID and that affects you. You were a full-time voice talent, even if you weren't a full-time voice talent, if you're part-time and you can't voice, what are you going to do? So what about health insurance that could be a secondary health insurance?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a great segue to number 2 is disability insurance.
Yes.
That's something that a lot of corporations offer as well. But if you're not working for a corporation or maybe it's just not as affordable, there are independent disability policies out there. And I do have one, even though I have the corporate job, to supplement. So if you can't voice for a few weeks, you can still get some income.
Right. That's actually so smart of you. So what made you make that decision to purchase independent insurance?
Yeah, I think it was probably, God, how long ago? at least maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, I started talking to a financial planner, and we started talking about life insurance, and sort of disability insurance comes up in that conversation because it's all about wealth protection, right? So even though it's making you great money, it's like, again, something happens to you and that is gone, or a lot of corporations with the long-term disability, it cuts you down to like 60%. My father had a really bad accident that almost killed him 4 years ago. And his disability insurance, like I think like the first week or two was like short term and it's 100%. But then it went down to 60%.
Yeah.
You had a mortgage, a dog, you don't plan for these kind of things to happen. So you have to have that contingency plan in place. So it really just made me think. I had 2 kids. I was a single mom at the time. And it was like, if something happens, I got to make sure that we're okay. And I am risk averse, like the definition. Look in the dictionary, Erikka J's picture is there. So so I like to have a plan and plan A, B, C. So I needed to have life insurance and disability.
And you know what's so interesting? Even health insurance, I'm just going to backtrack just a touch.
Yeah.
Because it's not a secret. I had some expensive surgery not so long ago. And in a year, if you have a decent insurance plan, a lot of times they'll say, well, we'll cover you up to. And then after so much money that you put into it out of pocket, we cover 100%. Well, what happens is when you reach that number where you shouldn't typically have to pay any more out of pocket, guess what? They start determining the procedures that are actually qualify for that. I got so upset about it. I couldn't even get it out. So some procedures and some portions of your doctor visits or procedures, they are not covered under that. I was like, well, look, at least I made my goal. So now I shouldn't have to pay anything else for my next, set of tests that come back. No, come to find out that a lot of that stuff, some of it isn't covered under the policy and the plan. And so you really have to read those plans carefully and the fine print, because a lot of times they make it sound a whole lot better than it might be.
And I'll backtrack with you, Ann. I'll run back to where you are. Not all health insurance plans are equal, right?
Yes.
So even the ones that are offered by corporations or by, whatever, full-time job you might have or part-time, it might be that if you qualify for SAG insurance, it might be that plan is better. You have to look at the deductible. You have to look at what is and is not covered, at what percentage, who's in network that's close to where you are. So just having a plan and not just kind of taking what's thrown at you and looking at your options is super important for health insurance. And dental. Oh my goodness, dental. We talk. Please take care of your mouth. Is there any dental plan that covers more than $1,000 worth of work? That's what I want to know. Yeah, I don't think so.
Because I think everybody has the same plan, and it covers up to $1,000, and yet some of those dental procedures are way more than that. Especially, I know I went through implant surgery a couple years back, and I had to strategically time it so that I got maximum amount of coverage one year, and then I could get the rest of it the following year. And
we did the same.
Thankfully, I could schedule things a little bit apart so that I could strategically get more money. Yeah. And that's so important for us, right? I mean, in the middle of those surgeries, my voice changed because I didn't have teeth maybe, or I had teeth, or I was having a problem with my teeth and I was in pain. So that's definitely something to think about. Now, most people, and I'm going to come back to the short-term disability, most people don't even think about short-term disability these days because it's just one of those kind of rare things. But the problem with thinking about it in that way is that it only takes one thing to happen where you will need short-term disability or even long-term disability. And that's when it becomes uber important that you have protected yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the balanced mindset, right? It's like none of us want to think about being hurt or not being able to do something for ourselves or being, in a bad space. But the reality is that it is possible. A few years ago, I was thinking that I was still a little younger than I was and jumping on a trampoline with my kids and rolled my ankle pretty bad before at a gig when I was doing stage performances. So when I was jumping on the trampoline, it really made it bad. And I had a high ankle sprain and I was in a boot for like 6 weeks. So thank God. I mean, actually, his voiceover, that doesn't really affect us too much. But there may be some things that happen where you could be taken out of the game for 6 weeks or so.
You could be in pain. And just that simple fact, right?
Yes.
It affects. Because what we do is with our bodies and, not just our mouths, right? But our bodies. And if our bodies are affected, it affects our mouths.
Absolutely.
It affects our performance. It affects our mental health. I will say, thank goodness that we do, at least when I went through my surgeries, I was back in the studio after 2 weeks, thankfully. But I also couldn't be in the booth for too long. Otherwise, I got tired. I was still recovering. And thankfully, during that time, my husband had a job. But if this were what was supplying the family with financial aid, it would really be something that I would have thought about.
Yeah. And this is something I'll have to dig more into. So nobody take my word for this. I'm just kind of expressing a thought here. I do think that there are some plans that allow for like partial disability because like you mentioned, like, right now, like let's say you were back in the booth, but you weren't able to work at full capacity and you can prove that your income has been affected by that dramatically.
Yes.
I do think that there are some policies that can help you with that too because you can show that your income has been reduced by a medical condition.
Right.
That's partially disabled. So just even thinking like that there's a variety of scenarios that can happen that none of us want to happen. But planning for the future is important so that you don't put yourself in a bad spot.
And I don't care how old you are. Actually, the
Thank
younger
you.
you are, I'm going to say it's highly recommended to think about these things when
True.
you're young. Because let's say retirement, right? If you start putting away for retirement or you have a company that is, do companies match?
A lot of
do
them
companies
do.
match anymore? Okay, that's good.
Yeah, mine does, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, that was a big benefit, right? Is that your companies would match what you put into your retirement. That was like, ooh, I have great benefits, and it's really all about that. And I have a feeling, though, that these benefits are slipping away from companies, but they're still very, very important. And I know back when I did work, I have a pension, thankfully, which will be coming to me, and so does my husband. So we have that we're counting on, but we've also got other plans as well that we've invested in, mutual funds and whatever it is. What about any other types of investments that you can recommend?
Yeah, so number 3, retirement. Definitely, if you are at a job, please, 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 please get a 401k and do your matching. There are I've read quite a few books on this subject, a lot of advice that say that don't go over whatever they're matching. And I could definitely see, for me, that's what I do, is just up to the match. So like my company matches 6% of my income, so I contribute 6%. And anything else that I can do, I put in other places because you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket.
Yes. Is that why the recommendation says not to go more than that and to put it elsewhere?
Because the thing is that when you come of age and you take that money out from the 401k, now that money becomes taxable.
Yes.
And you don't want to be in a position where now you're 70
and
you're paying more taxes, than when you were making money. Right, exactly. So the thing is that you want to spread it out, spread the love a bit. And the thing is that as entrepreneurs, we get to double dip. We get to have the 401k if you're still working at a corporate job, and you can also get a SEP, a self-employed retirement plan, or self-employed plan, something like that. Actually just opened one this year. Well, last year. So that way you can put that money aside, still can be pre-tax. There are also after-tax options like Roths and whatnot.
Yep. That's what I have. Yep.
Yeah, and there are like different things you can invest it in, like real estate. You can pick which mutual funds or whatever, or have somebody manage it for you. But you just have more than one option to fund your retirement.
By the way, this is a disclaimer for the podcast, is that we are not wealth management experts.
Not at all. This is all from personal experience.
Yes, just sharing our personal experiences, yes. And so I'm thankful that I have pensions set up, but that doesn't mean that I'm not investing now smartly in other areas. I have a Roth IRA, I have a financial planner that I work with, and he's actually been taking care of me since my job, actually. I just kind of stayed with him because he knows me well and I trust him. And I think that's an important thing, like what to look for in a financial planner. Did you have one recommended to you? Or
That's a great question.
Yeah.
What's really funny is I don't remember how I met my financial planner, because originally it was one guy, and I think maybe somebody at work might have referred him, but that guy ended up leaving the company and I got replaced with another guy. And now we're like friends. Brandon, shout out to Brandon with Northwestern Mutual. He's a great guy. I think somebody that just, first of all, listens. They're not just trying to sell and shove stuff down your throat. Really listening to your needs and your concerns and what you're looking for, what you feel comfortable with from a budget perspective on spending. The thing that I loved about my financial planners too is that they didn't jump into the sale of the plan. They obviously explained it to me, but from a total wealth health perspective, we looked at like my debt and like coming up with a plan to get that paid down or off, which I've pretty much done other than the mortgage and student loans. But so just really somebody that's going to listen and take your needs into account and make that first before they get the sale, because obviously they are selling policies at the end of the day. But I think that's important.
That's true, and we always have to think about that. They are selling something at the end of the day, and they are profiting off of it.
Absolutely.
And so that's why it's so important that, you can find someone that you can connect with. And I think you're right, looking at someone who's really looking at you and your financial future, and at least seems like they have your best interests at heart before they try to sell you.
For sure.
Because I think a lot of us get a little bit, the eyes like, oh my God, I don't know. Talking about money and financial planning gets me nervous.
Yeah, a lot of people.
That's not necessarily my forte.
Yeah, then you start adding in things that are seen as like morose, which I think is number 5 we're on now, is life insurance. It's like nobody wants to think about dying.
Right?
Like, it's like, I'll just be here until whatever happens and I don't want to think about what's going to happen. But if you have a family, if you want to have anything that you want to leave behind, and honestly, even if you don't have kids, if you have things, like if you have built up some type of wealth, if you have a house, you don't want people fighting over that stuff in probate court and whatnot.
Exactly.
And people trying to figure out how to pay for your funeral. It hurts my heart when I see GoFundMes to have to pay for someone's funeral.
Yeah.
Families should be able to grieve without having to worry about the money to do it.
I agree.
Get life insurance. There are so many different types of plans, and some are more affordable than others. At least look into it and, put it in your plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that, I mean, again, wills. Wills are important.
Wills, power of attorney,
Yep.
and trust. Again,
exactly.
This is just my personal experience, but I have talked to a professional, and bad girl Erikka, I haven't done it yet, but it is on my list for this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was educated that a will is not enough. A will can be contested in probate court. And I was shocked. I was like, really? Are you sure?
That's actually news to me.
Yeah.
Wow. So what else is necessary then?
So I've heard that a trust is really kind of the most, I guess I could say foolproof. Again, I'm not a lawyer. So this is what I've been told and what I've heard is the easiest way to ensure that what you want to go down goes down. If you already have things set aside in a trust for your kids or for whoever, there's nothing to contest. It's already set aside. Their name is on it. The ownership just passes on to them. Having a power of attorney, especially medical, someone to make those decisions for you.
Absolutely.
Knowing what the hierarchy is that normally it will go to your spouse. If you're not married, it will go to the oldest child. If you don't have an oldest child, it'll go to the parent. I might have that mixed up. But knowing what that is, and if that person doesn't want that responsibility, you need to put it on paper of who it might be.
Exactly. Exactly.
Maybe your husband or wife doesn't want that choice because it's too hard for them. I don't know. You have to talk about that.
And not only do it just once, but you have to update it when things happen.
God, yes.
Right?
Yes,
In the family,
yes.
it needs to be updated. And I'm guilty of that right now because, a family member has unfortunately passed away. And so I need to think about, okay, who would be next in line for my possessions once I pass on.
Yeah.
So it is important to kind of keep those things up to date.
Yep. And guardianship agreements, which was something I had never heard about.
Oh,
but you have to think about that. If you do have kids, being able to have on paper, or even if you're incapacitated for a little while, if God forbid you get COVID and you're intubated for, a couple weeks, who's going to take care of your kids in the meantime? You don't want that decision to be up in the air.
Right.
So all these planning for the future sort of items are just important to think about, especially if you are really just doing voiceover or entrepreneur and don't sort of have, another company that supplies these things for you. You want to supply them for yourself.
Yeah. And again, bringing this back towards the idea of a balanced entrepreneurial, career.
Yeah.
And not just what's the income that I'm bringing in, but what am I expensing? That kind of a thought process. Because we don't like to think about what we have to pay for, but we certainly love the money coming in. And so we don't always want to think about the future and protecting ourselves or even investing in ourselves for the future. But it is absolutely a part of your life, right? And of course, your business as well, to make sure that you have planned for these types of events that can happen. And especially if we can't work, I think it's so important for us. I think most of us don't even think about it because, number one, we're fortunate that a lot of us can work from home and we've got our studios in our house. So what could possibly happen that would stop me from being able to work in my house? Well, I can't talk maybe, or some sort of an illness that takes that away from me. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I have a lot of people that inquire about voiceover that are disabled or want to be in the home because they can't go out for some reason into the workforce and that maybe they are on disability. And so it is a wonderful career for that. But I think if we're healthy and we're not thinking about that, we're not thinking about it. And I think we need to.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be bad things. As recently, everybody should know now that I am with child at 40.
Yay.
Jesus. Huh. Which, I mean, it's great, but it's a little different than when I was pregnant at 25. Yeah. So, like there are different complications. I've got thyroid issues now that I have to take medication for and watch. I'm a little more at risk for things like preeclampsia that could put me out early or put me in the hospital or put me on bed rest. And if I can't work, even though this is a great occasion, I'm having a new life and a new family member, but I have to plan.
And you probably have to visit the doctor more.
That's the other thing.
Because of that, right?
Well, and I've also been in the booth a little less. I've just had to slow down. I have to go to the doctor very often. So there are times where I might have to push a session out or not be able to do something right away because I have a doctor's appointment.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
I'm in the booth, my breath support is not the same.
Well, I can vouch for that after having surgery on my chest. Absolutely. I mean, and also, and this is a sad, like I thought I'd be young forever, but I'll tell you what, as I'm becoming older, it is so much more important, your health, taking care of yourself. Because just I can't do what I used to do. And it that impacts my business a little bit. I mean, it's not a horrible scenario, but I definitely am feeling age and how it's affected me to be able to perform and do what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And the whole point is just to have a plan for it. If you have contingencies in place and, things to prepare for the future, then you'll be fine. But we just can't just act like everything's going to stay the way it is because just like technology, as Ann and I know, things get old.
We need backups. And we need backups. That's right. We need backups. Oh, man, I'll tell you. For sure. Man. And I think that again, it gets to the point where I know there's a lot of people that try to enter into this industry. Yeah. And it's one of those where I don't know if it's the concept of the dream of, I can work from home and it's going to be easy. That a lot of people come to this business without thoughts of investing in the business. They're like, well, I don't have a lot of money, but I want to be able to work and make thousands of dollars a month doing voiceover.
You're gonna spend so many more thousands first.
But that's the thing. I mean, I think the whole concept of investing in your business. Now, here's a good balance, right? Not necessarily listening to the dream and simplifying things to the point where, it's just so easy. I'll just be able to buy a microphone and do this. No, there's so many things that you have to think about in order to run your business. And then it's beyond that, because I know it took me a long time before I really thought seriously about disability, life insurance, now that I am doing this full time and really helping to support the family that I have and be able to contribute to it in a very helpful way versus, I can only contribute this because I'm not a fully owned. My husband is going to retire sooner than me. Yeah. And so I'll be the one that will be kind of taking on probably the income for a few years until I retire. I mean, I'd love to be able to retire at the same time. And I'll tell you, that's what I keep trying to do on a day-to-day basis. But in the meantime, I found myself planning my business for extra income and extra streams of income so that I can afford to reinvest it in things that will protect us when I want to be able to just enjoy my life when I retire and not have to worry about health expenses, not to worry about how am I going to live, how am I going to pay the rent, or I want to travel, how am I going to pay those bills? And so now is the time to think about those things. And any of you bosses out there that are thinking about getting into the industry, it is something that you should consider. This industry is not necessarily as easy as a lot of people want to think it is.
And you have to think about it that even though, yes, we're at home and yes, for the most part, we're either sitting or standing in our booths most of the day or sitting down editing, this is still a physical job. It still is labor. Like it's still manual labor. You know what I mean? Like, you're probably at low risk to break things, but it is still something that requires your body in order to do the work. Yeah, so absolutely. As you get older or things happen where you might get sick, you want to try to find, passive forms of income that can support you, such as policies or real estate investments or whatever other investments you're interested in. But also thinking about, me having worked from home for the past 2 years. Before even being pregnant, I put on a couple pounds because I wasn't moving around as much. And that affects health, so making sure that you are thinking about that future and taking care of yourself and doing things to move around and get about that people that are working outside the home kind of get naturally that you may not if you're working from home doing voiceover.
Exactly. And I love that you brought up the idea of passive income that doesn't have to do with voiceover. I mean, passive income is just we could have a whole podcast on that.
Oh my God.
It's just the coolest concept, right? The passive income, because that's really where I have been delving my concentration into how can I make passive income that's going to supplement me in retirement. And so I love that you said just in other investments, in other areas, not just voiceover, how can you make passive income in other ways? And so I think a lot of people think that, if I'm full-time voiceover, that's all I have to do. No, think of it this way. You are an entrepreneur. I don't even really think of it, I'm a voiceover talent and that is my business. I am an entrepreneur and I am a business first. And so to me, the challenge and the joy is how can I make money?
Multiple streams of income are the key to wealth. Absolutely.
Exactly. How can I make money so that I am not worried about it or stressed about it? Because that's one of the biggest issues when we first come into the business and we're doing full-time voiceover, and maybe it's the first time you've had your own business and now you're like, oh my gosh, where's this money going to come from? That's the huge stressor, I think, in the first few years of anyone's business is, where's the money coming from? Where's the income? And when you can start to devise and plan and strategize streams of passive income, I think that's when you're really growing your business. And for me, that's so exciting.
Isn't it? Like, it's really cool to just be able to make money in your sleep if we could. There are ways to do it. There are people that do it. And to hop on a soapbox real quick, even things that are related to voiceover, this is why understanding usage and having cutoffs for things that are broadcast are so important because that can be passive income that is voiceover related. If they use your voice again and want to run it again, you don't have to get in the booth and make that money. You don't want to cut yourself out of that. So please, any bosses that are coming into this and coming to see Ann, please understand usage and have those things in place.
I'm so glad you landed on that one. Yes. Yeah. Excellent point. And usage there's that lovely stream of passive income.
The residuals, they're beautiful. The unexpected checks.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Well, what a great conversation. Maybe not as fun as some people like to think in this voiceover business, but definitely a necessary conversation to have. Bosses, balance in your career, balance in your life, planning for the future. That is most definitely an important factor in achieving balance in your lives and careers. So, wow. So I'd like to give a great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can network and connect like a boss. Find out more at IPDTL.com. And I also have another moment that I'd like to take to ask you to imagine a world full of passionate, empowered, wow, that was a lot of P's. Diverse individuals giving collectively and intentionally to create the world that they want to see. You can make a difference. Visit 100voiceswhocare.org to learn more about how your voice can make a difference. You guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.